I want you to imagine a Saturday morning at a golf club somewhere. Doesn't matter where. It could be Scotland, it could be Ohio, it could be a public course in Melbourne. A competition is about to start. 40 players, different ages, different backgrounds, different levels of skill. The oldest player is 71. The youngest is 22. The 71-year-old has a handicap of 18. The 22-year-old is a scratch golfer, plays to par, genuinely talented, has been playing since he was 10. By any conventional measure of sporting fairness, this is not a contest. The young man should win easily. He hits the ball further. He has better coordination, better eyesight, more physical range of motion. He has spent more time practicing in the last year than the older man has spent playing in the last 5. And yet, by the end of the round, the 71-year-old has a genuine chance. Not a polite, symbolic chance. A real mathematical chance, built into the structure of the competition by a system that has been refined over centuries to do exactly this. To make a round of golf between a 22-year-old scratch golfer and a 71-year-old 18 handicapper into a contest that neither of them can take for granted. That system is the golf handicap, and I am going to spend the next 30 minutes making the case that it is the most elegant idea in the history of competitive sport. Not one of the most elegant, the most elegant, and that no other major sport, not tennis, not football, not athletics, not any of them, has ever come close to solving the problem that golf solved, quietly, without fanfare, so long ago that most golfers don't even think about it anymore. Let me start with the problem, because you have to understand the problem to appreciate how good the solution is. Every competitive sport faces the same fundamental challenge. How do you make competition meaningful when the participants have different levels of skill? The standard answer across almost every sport is you don't. You separate them. You create divisions, leagues, categories, weight classes. You put the good players with the good players and the less good players with the less good players, and you run separate competitions. The amateur tennis player does not play against Yannick Sinner. The Sunday League footballer does not share a pitch with a Premier League professional. Separation is the solution. This works, more or less, but it has a cost. The cost is that the interesting competition, the one with genuine stakes, the one where the outcome is uncertain, only happens at the top. Everyone else is playing a version of the game where they know, roughly, where they stand in the hierarchy of their division, and the surprise is limited. You are not going to beat someone 3 divisions above you. The structure makes sure of that. Golf looked at this problem and said, what if instead of separating players, we adjusted the scoring to account for the difference? What if we gave the weaker player extra shots? Not enough to make it patronizing, but exactly enough to make it uncertain. That is the handicap system. In its essence, it is disarmingly simple. Every golfer has a number, their handicap index, that represents roughly how many shots above par they typically shoot. A scratch golfer shoots par. A 10 handicap golfer typically shoots about 10 over par. An 18 handicap golfer shoots about 18 over par. In a handicap competition, the higher handicap player receives strokes, 1 stroke on each of the 18 hardest holes, in the case of an 18 handicap, and the net scores are compared. The 18 handicap golfer who shoots 90 has a net score of 72. The scratch golfer who shoots 74 has a net score of 74. The 18 handicapper wins. Simple in description, extraordinary in effect. Because what this means, in practice, on the ground, on a Saturday morning at that club anywhere in the world, is that the competition is real. The scratch golfer cannot coast. A 74 is not a guaranteed win. They have to play well. The 18 handicapper cannot give up after a bad front nine. They are still in it. Every shot matters for both of them, in a way that makes the psychological experience of the round, the tension, the engagement, the stakes, identical regardless of ability level. I want to dwell on how unusual this is, because I don't think it gets enough credit for how unusual it is. In tennis, if you played a set against a club player who was 3 levels below you, you would win 6-0 in about 15 minutes, and neither of you would have enjoyed it. There is no mechanism to make that match interesting. The sport does not have one. You could give the weaker player a points head start, but this is not standard, not systematic, and not particularly satisfying for either party. In running, the faster runner wins, every time. You can have different age categories, and running does have age-graded performance tables that are interesting in their own right. But in the actual race, the faster person crosses the line first. There is no adjustment happening in real time that makes the slower runner's performance competitive with the faster ones. Golf is the only major sport where the structural adjustment, the handicap, makes any two players genuinely competitive with each other, on the same course, at the same time, in the same round. Not in separate categories, together. The 71-year-old and the 22-year-old, walking the same fairways, playing the same holes, with a result that is genuinely in doubt from the first tee to the last green. Now I want to talk about where this came from, because the history of the golf handicap is itself a remarkable story about how good ideas evolve. The earliest references to golf handicapping date to the 17th century in Scotland. The word handicap itself has murky origins. One theory traces it to a medieval trading game called hand and cap, where an arbitrator determined the fair exchange value between two unequal items, and both parties put stakes in a cap to signal agreement. The idea of an independent assessment of relative value, converted into a concrete adjustment, is very old. Early golf handicaps were informal and local. A club would have its own system, maintained by the members, adjusted over time by observation and consensus. If you consistently shot 5 over par, you were roughly a 5 handicap. If you improved, your handicap went down. If you stopped playing for 6 months and came back rusty, it went up. The system was honest because it was social. Your playing partners knew your game, and inflating your handicap to gain a competitive advantage was a form of cheating that the community would notice and remember. This social enforcement, the fact that your handicap existed within a community of people who had watched you play, created a culture around the handicap that is genuinely unusual in sport. Golfers talk about playing to your handicap as a kind of moral standard. Playing significantly better than your handicap in a competition, what golfers call playing off your handicap, or, less charitably, banditry, carries a mild social stigma. You are supposed to be honest about your ability. The handicap is a promise. The formalization of handicapping took centuries. In 1926, the British golf unions introduced the first standardized system across Great Britain and Ireland. The United States Golf Association developed their own system. Different countries had different methods, which created the farcical situation where a golfer's handicap in one country was not directly comparable to their handicap in another. You could be a 12 handicap in England and a 14 handicap in America, and nobody was quite sure what that meant. This problem was solved, finally, completely, elegantly, in 2020 when the World Handicap System was introduced globally. One system, every country. Every golfer on Earth now carries a handicap index on the same scale, calculated by the same formula, comparable across continents. A 15 handicap golfer in Japan is the same as a 15 handicap golfer in Ireland. The same calculation, the same meaning. It took 400 years to get there, but they got there. The modern World Handicap System is worth understanding in a little detail because the sophistication of it is part of what makes it beautiful. Your handicap index is not just an average of your recent scores. It is calculated from the best 8 of your most recent 20 rounds, adjusted for the difficulty of the specific course you played, the course rating and the slope rating, 2 numbers that every official course carries that quantify how difficult that course is for a scratch golfer and how much difficulty increases for higher handicap players. What this means is that a round played on a brutally hard, wind-exposed links course in Ireland counts differently from a round played on a benign parkland course in good conditions. The system knows the difference. It adjusts. Your handicap index reflects your true ability across varied conditions, not just your performance on your home course in perfect weather. And the best 8 of 20 calculation has a specific, deliberate effect. It anchors your handicap to your best recent performance, not your average performance. This means that your handicap represents what you are capable of on a good day, not what you typically do. Not your worst, but your ceiling when everything comes together. The competition is asking, can you play to your potential today? That is a fundamentally different question from, can you beat this other person who is more skilled than you? The question golf asks, can you play to your potential today, is, I would argue, a more interesting question than the one most sports ask. Most sports ask, are you better than this other person? Golf asks something more personal, something that has nothing to do with the person next to you and everything to do with what you are capable of when the conditions are right. Let me come back to the 71-year-old and the 22-year-old, because I want to make the emotional reality of this concrete, not just the mechanical reality. The older golfer has been playing for 50 years. He learned the game in his 20s, played seriously in his 30s and 40s, slowed down a little in his 50s, and now plays twice a week because it is the best part of his week and has been for as long as he can remember. He knows this course. He has played it in every season, in every kind of weather. He knows which holes favor the wind from the west and which greens break toward the valley. He has a mental library of this place that the young man, who is more talented, faster, stronger, simply does not have. The young man is better at golf by almost every measurable metric. He hits the ball 30 yards further. His short game is more refined. His technique is cleaner. If they played stroke play, just counting every shot, no handicap, the young man wins by 15 shots on a good day for both of them. But they are not playing stroke play. They are playing a handicap competition. And in that competition, the older man's 50 years of accumulated knowledge of this specific course, which hole to lay up on when the pin is front left, which approach to take when the wind is coming from the southeast, how fast the greens run in October versus April, is worth something. It is built into his game in a way that shows up in his handicap, and the handicap gives him the shots that make that knowledge competitive. This is what the handicap system actually does at its deepest level. It doesn't just adjust for skill. It creates conditions in which experience, local knowledge, course management, and the accumulated wisdom of decades of play are competitive with youth, athleticism, and raw talent. It honors what a lifetime of playing gives you. No other sport does that. No other sport has a mechanism that says, yes, you are slower and less powerful and less technically precise than you were at 25. And also, The 50 years you have spent on this game are worth something real in competition. Golf says that. The handicap system says that. And I find that genuinely moving. There is one more dimension of the handicap system that I want to address, because it is the thing that makes golf socially unlike any other sport. The handicap is global. It is universal. It follows you. If you are a 14 handicap golfer and you travel to Scotland and play a course you have never seen, you can enter a competition at that club and your 14 handicap is valid. It is recognized. You have a number that tells this community of strangers, in precise terms, what level of player you are and what competition you can meaningfully enter. You are immediately legible to a golf club on the other side of the world in a way that no other sporting credential makes possible. A runner has a personal best, but a personal best is a time, and a time is only comparable to other times on similar courses in similar conditions. A tennis player has a ranking, but rankings only exist within organized competition structures. A golfer has a handicap index, one number, universally understood, continuously updated, valid everywhere the World Handicap System is recognized, which is essentially everywhere golf is played on Earth. It is a passport. It is a language. It lets you walk into any golf club in the world and immediately be part of the competitive fabric of that place. The resistance and the reframe. The objection I hear sometimes goes like this. The handicap system sounds fine in theory, but in practice people manipulate it. They inflate their handicaps to gain an advantage in competitions. The system is only as honest as the people using it, and people are not always honest. This is true. Handicap manipulation, sandbagging in golf's vocabulary, exists. It has always existed. There are people who deliberately play below their ability in casual rounds to keep their handicap artificially high, then play to their true ability in competitions to win. But here is the thing. Every competitive system has people who try to exploit it. Doping in athletics, diving in football, cheating at cards. The existence of exploitation does not invalidate the system. It tells you the system has value because people only cheat at things that are worth cheating at. And the World Handicap System has mechanisms specifically designed to detect and correct manipulation. Exceptional tournament scores are automatically reviewed. Handicap committees can adjust indexes that appear inconsistent. The system is not naive. More fundamentally, the vast majority of golfers don't manipulate their handicaps. The social fabric of a golf club, the fact that your playing partners have watched you play, that your scores are recorded and verifiable, that sandbagging is considered a genuine breach of the sport's culture, creates a level of self-regulation that no rulebook alone could achieve. Golf's honesty culture, which we talked about in episode 2, extends to the handicap. The number is a promise. Most golfers keep it. Golf is the only sport where a 70-year-old can beat a 25-year-old. Not in a different category. Not in a separate competition. In the same round, on the same course, in the same competition, with the result genuinely uncertain from the first tee to the last green. The handicap system made that possible. 4 centuries of refinement, from informal agreements between Scottish golfers in the 1600s to the World Handicap System adopted globally in 2020, produced a mechanism that no other sport has matched. A single number, universally understood, continuously updated, that makes any 2 golfers competitive with each other anywhere on Earth. And what it really does, underneath the mathematics and the course ratings and the slope ratings, is say something about what competitive sport can be when it's designed with genuine generosity. It says, Your 50 years of playing this game are worth something. Your local knowledge is worth something. Your ability to manage a course you've walked 1,000 times in every kind of weather, that is worth something. You don't have to be the most talented or the youngest or the most powerful. You have to play to what you are capable of, today, with the game you have built over the years you have spent on it. Golf is the only game you never master. And the handicap system is the proof that the game knows this and decided centuries ago that the right response to an unmastered game was not to reward the people who got closest to mastering it. It was to make the attempt itself competitive. That's the most elegant idea in sport. And it's been sitting there, in plain sight, on every golf course on Earth for 400 years. This is Kora's Golf Vibes. 4 episodes in, and we are building something. A case, piece by piece, for why this sport holds people for an entire lifetime. If you're new here, start from episode 1 and work forward. Each episode stands alone, but they build on each other. Follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. I'm Kora. See you next week.